Hello and welcome to another edition of the Athletes Corner. And today we're taking a trip down memory lane with Shane, Lynn English High alum. We're just gonna reminisce about his playing days at Lynn English and also at Bryant University, and just talk about the good old days. How you doing, sir?
Good. How you doing?
I'm good. I'm good, man. I'm good, man. It's been, that Facebook page got created and it's giving people so much memories of the playing of, just the times they had when they were in high school, good time to reminisce and also good time to catch up. Just, I saw that page. I saw everything get posted. Just when you saw everything get posted, what was just like, did you have flashbacks or were you just like, oh man, those were some good times?
Yeah, man. That brought like flashbacks from everything in high school. From me playing football was my main sport, but it brought memories from basketball, from baseball, and then even going forward, going back even more into Pop Warner with all those guys. Because
Yeah.
Lynn, we played Eastland, Westland, Lynn English, Lynn Classical, Lynn Tech, all that stuff. So we've been playing ball against each other since we was little tykes, running around. So brought
Yeah.
back all the memories.
Yeah, that's one thing about I always talk when I talk about Lynn athletics with people and with guys that played and guys that went on to play somewhere in college and stuff like that. It's so competitive because everybody either they grew up playing with each other or they know each other. It's just such a tight knit group of people. It's everybody's either friends or friends of friends. It's like everybody know each other, so it's so competitive when everyone gets on the field or on the basketball court or on the baseball field with each other.
Yep, exactly, man. Because like and it also is like, looking at this page, it's like, all right, cool. Like, what have people been doing? Where do people go? Because you go your own directions when you get to college and all that stuff. So it's good to see what people were doing and where they went and what they did with some of those skills. Because I mean, looking at some of the females that have been posted up there, I'm like, yo, I remember them as dogs killing it in high school. You know what I mean? So
Yeah, definitely. Let's talk about some of your times playing football. Coach Malaya, Coach Malaya is great guy, great guy. Coach Malaya, he was always known for yelling. Coach Malaya, I don't think there was a day in practice where he didn't yell at somebody. But just talk about playing for him.
oh man, playing for him has whew, that was quite a yeah, it was quite an event,
Yeah,
to say the least. The one thing I do like, Malaya knew me from the time I was in Pop Warner because my older cousin is like 6 years older than me. He played for him at English.
Mhm.
So Malaya was watching me play quarterback my entire life growing up, and he was like, "All right, cool." So by the time I got up to English, in I think maybe like my junior year is when he started like tweaking an offense. He started putting an offense specifically for me. We still had a senior that was playing quarterback my junior year, but he had started getting the motors rolling because he knew like I wasn't your traditional, um, pocket passer, like you're under the center quarterback. So he put in the spread offense for my senior year, but he also knew the talent that was coming because myself, Jared, Elliot, Jeremy and all of them, we played together from Pop Warner and we came up together. So he knew what he was getting, the athleticism and the speed. So he knew it wasn't traditional, down the road thing. But he still kept that because we had Brandon Guy.
Yeah,
So Brandon took the rock and as you see, the year after I left, he broke the state record. But like playing for Malaya it was fun. There was a funny time that I think it was before the Gloucester game. We were 6-0 going into Gloucester my senior year, and my group of seniors, Jared and all of us, like we weren't that great of practice people. So Malay used to get very upset at us in practice. And the day before the Gloucester game, he walked out on us in practice. He was irritated at us for some reason, and he just walked out on us in practice, left us on the practice field, took all the coaches. So as a senior, I was like, "Yo, nah, this isn't happening." I was like, "This can't be real."
yeah,
So I grabbed my quarterback coach and said, "Yo, I need a ball so we can continue practice." Because the seniors, he was like, "Yo, we're gonna keep practicing. We know what we're doing for practice, like our practice schedule."
yeah.
So we kept it going, and Malaya eventually 20 minutes later brought all the coaches back out because he saw that we was dedicated um to what we wanted to do. But yeah, he screamed and yelled at us a
Yeah.
lot. There was so many cuss words that came out, but it was all love though. It was all love. That was just his style.
Yeah, he the competition. He wants to win. And playing in the Northeastern Conference, English, there was so many rivalries that you guys had. The big one with Lynn Classical, but also there was the Lynn Swampscott rivalry, the Lynn Gloucester rivalry, the Lynn and Salem Gloucester
Salem.
rivalry. Those
Yeah,
games and those games were always competitive too, especially the Lynn and Swampscott one because neighbors. And also another thing, the kids, everybody knows each other. The kids that play for Swampscott know for the kids who play for English, or they played with each other at some point
yeah.
at the Pop Warner, and those games were usually probably, besides the classical game, those ones were one of the most anticipated games between English and Swampscott.
Yeah, for sure. The Swampscott one was always big because we share that beach line with them. So and we was always in the summertime they always had some good basketball courts right across the line. So we go up there, show them what Lynn's all about in the summertime of basketball. So, but yeah, the Swampscott rivalry was always tricky. It was always tough games against them. But the other bigger rivalry was always Salem because
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Salem had a really really good team when I was there. I think they had just won either the conference or the state or in the state title in like 2000 in 99 or 2000 when they had Lito Gonzalez and Dwayne Penn in them. But they came into the bowl my senior year, and that was a battle. I think we won like by like 6. It came down to the line, but it was one of those gritty games that went back and forth, and the stands was packed for that game because it had gotten pushed back from a Friday night to a Saturday afternoon. So it gave other teams chance to come and watch the game and all that stuff. So
Yeah. Hey, you got the experience of playing in Manning Bowl.
yeah,
Manning Bowl, I think, yeah, it got torn down. My senior year, it was torn down. They were already making the Manning Field, but you got the experience of playing in Manning Bowl. There's no experience like being in Manning Bowl, being in that environment. I know everyone that's played there talked about the same thing. It's just like a feeling that you can't describe.
yeah, it's and I mean I played a lot of football since high school, but there's no feeling like playing in Manning Bowl. Like the atmosphere is just different. I remember from going there from watching my cousin when I was younger, and Thanksgiving game where it was the whole bowl was packed, and the track all around was packed. Like it was just wow. Like it's just a crazy feeling, crazy atmosphere. And I mean I played in college stadiums that don't have that feeling of the enclosure and things like that. But that Manning Field was like the Manning Bowl. It's just like every time I go down to Manning Field now, I'm just like I look at it, I'm like, man, this ain't the same.
Yeah.
So it's a different feeling. It's a feeling that I'm glad I got to experience and I was playing in that time that it was still around. So
Mhm. Besides, we'll get into the Lynn Classical and English rivalry in a bit. What's probably your most memorable game at the bowl in your years playing at Lynn English?
I mean, I would have to say that Salem game, my senior year, like I said, it was a tight game. It was back and forth, um, and it was one of our games that it was like one of our most uncharacteristic games. Like we were coughing up the ball left and right, but we still like band together and pulled through. It was crazy. We would have big plays that got called back. I remember we um we had a screen pass called. I think we was like around midfield. We had a screen pass called, and they was on it. So I instead of throwing the ball into the ground, like I kept moving and kept moving, and then all of a sudden I just saw the field open up. I started taking off and cutting back across the field diagonally, and I saw all the receivers coming back. I saw Jared coming back, taking people out, Jeremy clearing people out. and like it just opened up a path. And then I got into the end zone, and like you can just hear everybody. Like as I'm running, I could just hear everybody on our sideline, our fans and all that stuff, going crazy. Turn around and there's a flag on the play.
Oh, man.
So now I'm over here like huffing and puffing and wheezing, and Jeremy was the other quarterback, so Jeremy had to go in for me the next play, and then I think he ended up like leading the next like 2 or 3 plays and brought us into scoring position, and we ended up capping up and scoring. But I still remember that like that was one of the games that like it really set us apart, and got us ready for the end of the season run, because it showed us like we can withstand a lot, and even with our mistakes we can overcome it. So it was one of those games that always sticks out just because of the back and forth, and it was a big hype because they had Dwayne Penn, which was Scooney Penn's brother, and all that stuff. So they were the papers were gassing it up. So
And you guys played at a time where you pretty much damn near had to go. You pretty much had to go undefeated to make the playoffs. I know now
oh
the
man,
MIA has changed a lot of the rules. I mean, it's no fault to the kids of the schools, but a lot of the rules have been changed, so it's a lot easier to make the playoffs. But at that time during that era, it's pretty much you either had to go undefeated or probably have one loss, but mostly you had to be undefeated to get into the playoffs and have a chance at the Super Bowl. So I think that made it. I'm sure you can speak on this. That's what made it a lot more competitive for a lot of the schools because nobody wanted to lose because you lose one game and almost
yeah.
kind of like the BCS at that point in college football, you lose one and you're out.
That's pretty much it, man. That's my senior year. We was 8-2. We lost to Gloucester, and we lost to Classical, and it was crazy because, like I said before, I always say this, and a bunch of us always say this, like if we had one school for the city, one public school team, I don't think it would have been any contest. You know what I mean? We would have had state titles left and right, nationally talked and all that stuff. But because English and Classical was split and Gloucester was one team, Gloucester always had the upper hand for quite some time. Gloucester went undefeated. They beat us and they beat Classical, and Classical beat us. So it went Gloucester, Classical, us, 10-0, 9-1, 8-2. So it was one of those things. It's like, damn, like we had such a great season, but nothing's gonna come of it with the 8-2 record. And same for Classical, like they went 9-1, and it was nothing for them. You know what I mean?
And
So
they
it was,
lost on a Hail Mary too. That,
yeah,
that was the worst part.
that was the worst, because I mean it's like I'm glad they changed the system now, so it's a more of a bigger playoff system. But at the time, it was just like you said, like the NCAA, how they had, if you were number one, you were the national champion, or if you were number one and number two, you played for the national championships. So,
Yeah.
but
Yeah. And like the rules now is kind of, they've changed it, but sometimes there's like a bad part in it because sometimes they're letting teams that shouldn't be in it in the playoffs. So
yeah,
if they would have just adjusted it to the teams with winning records in there, it's a lot better. But now they have teams with losing records, and it makes no sense.
yeah, it's one of those participation everybody gets in type things that.
Yeah, yeah, man. I talked to Hoffman about it. He absolutely he absolutely hates it. Uh,
Yeah,
So now we go to Lynn Classical, Lynn English. This is, Thanksgiving Day. This is the game of the year. This is the city's pretty much shut down. Everybody's at Manning for those 3-4 hours for this game. And it gets so amped up because of the friendships, because of the relationships everybody has. And it's either your English or your classical. And right now we're
yeah,
not friends. So that whole week, just tell to me when you played that the week leading up to the Thanksgiving game.
man, that week leading up is crazy because you have so much time between your last game. We actually have like, I think we had like almost 2 weeks before the last game and the Thanksgiving game. So those 2 weeks are crazy, and it's wild because um, you know Tony Seaforth and them and Achilles and all them, they were like some of my best friends. So like we hung around all the time, you know. So if I wasn't with my with my boys from English, I was with Achilles and you know and Tony and all them. So you know those 2 weeks, you know, there's like a no contact order.
Yeah.
So it's like you know you're with your team, you're trying to focus, you're watching mad film, you're trying to figure out how to stop. At that point, like Classical's offense had like they had like 6 or 7 people that if they touched the ball, it was a wrap. You know what I mean? If they got loose, it was a wrap. They had their they had that wishbone formation that you know what I mean that 3 running backs and then the next 3 running backs that came in, they touched the ball and then they had JoJo at quarterback where JoJo can take off and be gone too. But then every once in a while they'll split Tony out at receiver and Tony at the time was 6'2", maybe. So he's bigger than 99% of the players in the league. You know what I mean? So and he's fast and he's lanky and he's got hands. So it's like you split him out now, and then it's like what's going on. So a lot of film preparation, a lot of things going on, and then even defensively they were fast. Their front five was freaking they were strong. They were big boys for that time. You know what I mean? So they were strong and and speedy. So it was a lot of like game planning and figuring out, try to figure out how to keep me clean, how to and how to get Brandon the carries to loosen up the defense, tighten up the defense so I can throw.
Mhm.
So it was a lot of that going on, and I mean, going into the game, I mean, it was one of those things that we had everything that we needed, but Classical also made their adjustments. So I come to find out that after a couple of years, like talking to Tony and all that, he was telling me how like they put in a different defense. Actually, it wasn't a couple of years; it was in the Agganis All Star game talking to Durgan, talking to Coach Durgan and them. He was the coach for me. He was telling me, he's like, yeah, like we changed our defense. We put in like a Tampa 2 style defense for your throwing abilities. It's
Yeah.
you and Jared's chemistry. And he goes, and we also put in a few blitzes to blitzes and stunts. And and back in that time in high school, there wasn't any you didn't really see much stunting and things like that on the front line.
Yeah.
So it confused our offensive line a lot, and they they shut us down. Like we only had I think maybe two or three red zone trips, and they weren't successful. Like they buckled down and stopped us. So I mean, it wasn't the Thanksgiving that I wanted, but I mean, at the end of the day, it's like you go out there, you put everything on the line on Thanksgiving, you put your heart and soul on the field, and then after that, that's when the friendships kick back in. I mean, I sent you a picture that showed us right after that game, after them wiping us down, and it's your best friends again. You know what I mean? So
Yeah. And when you go, that's your last official game, and then you got the Agganis game. I mean, they didn't have it this year, but talk about the Agganis game because that's another one you get. You're playing with some guys that you normally don't play against or play with. It's just a whole lot of all stars around the state coming together. I think the most, there was one I covered, and I think the most, the best part of the Agganis game was practice, because
oh
you're back
yeah.
against people you've never, you've never seen before. Some guys are top guys in the state. Just talk about the practice and seeing some of those other guys, just how they work and how they play.
Yeah, the practice was the funnest part because you know you got the Gloucester guys that got the bragging rights because they won the state title or they won the conference and stuff like that. Then you got the classical guys like, yeah, we beat y'all on Thanksgiving. And then you got us talking to the rest of the league like, yo, y'all didn't beat us and all that stuff. So I mean, it was a hierarchy of bragging. But then like that's when like you went in and you showed what you could do, and other people just showed out. So like it wasn't like the typical practice where you're with your teammates and you're like, I know this guy can do this. It's everybody for those 2 weeks. Everybody was showing out. You know what I mean? Showing what they had to the fullest, showing what they can do and what they've done all year. And I remember in one of the practices, it was funny because we're always talking about how, class schools run oriented. But Coach Durgan told me from the rep, he's like, yeah, we're gonna use you and Jared and showcase that. And then we also had the quarterback from Swampscott, Breen, who was a thrower. That kid's arm was ridiculous. So he knew that he had to throw the ball. So in one of the practices, um, me and Jared was talking, and we was talking about how I was like, yeah, I was like, I'm not skinny, but my arm is strong. And I think it was one of the classical guys. It might have been JoJo that was like, yo, you can't throw, going back and forth, like you can't throw. And I locked Jared down. So at the end of practice, he was like, yo, coach, can we get one real quick? He's like, yeah, cool. So I called a vertical play for Jared, and we had everybody watching. I was like, yo, I'm throwing it over JoJo's head. Watch. Drop back and just waited and waited and threw the ball as far as I can. I think I put it like maybe 55, 60 yards in the air. And Jared just like did a little stutter and go and was running full speed and like caught it like this. And JoJo was like 3, 4 yards behind him. And like everybody was cooking him in practice. But it was just one of those moments, like, everybody wins and lose battle, but it's just at that time we won that battle at that time. So we was like, yeah, what I mean, English over classical on that. But we ended practice with that. But I mean, eventually, JoJo got me back with a couple of picks in one of the practices and all that stuff. He like threw the ball at me and things like that. But it's one of those things that like, yo, those practices are fun. You know what I mean? Those
Yeah.
practices are all fun. It's all competitive stages. You know what I mean? But it was to go out and show what we had, because the last 3 years before that, the North was like, the North is full of the kids that are getting into D1 schools, the Everetts and the St. John prep kids that get all those looks and stuff
Yeah.
that the NEC didn't get. So we was like, yo, you know what? We're gonna rep for the NEC in the Catholic conference and all that stuff. All these little guys that the at the time it was the Division 1 and 2 guys, Division 1 and whatever it was, 1 and 2, and we were 3 and 4 and all that stuff. So we was repping for the little guys, and we made a statement like, yo, we need to wipe these dudes down, like, for sure. Like, we ended up going out and doing it. Like, it was a fun game. Like, still remember that game to
Yeah, that's definitely quite the experience, especially talking about playing those guys in Everett and St. John's Prep and stuff, because the run that Everett had. I
yeah.
think kind of like in the early phases of their run too at that time too. Talk about talk about going to Bryant University and playing there. Was there, when you got there, was there any type of adjustment to the speed of the game? Because I know when people get to college, the first thing they say is always the speed of the game is what catches them off guard. Was there any type of adjustment to that?
Yeah, it was a huge adjustment phase for me. So like, um the program I went into when I went to Bryant, it was in its third third full year of the program. Um, and it's funny, we went into a conference, the Northeast Conference as well. But when I got there, the offense was. I started laughing because we ran uh we ran a triple option offense, and I laughed back. I was like, wow, like, we had a wing T formation like classical had, but we was like, I formation, triple option, um, almost everything was under the center. I think maybe like, you know, a handful of players was in the shotgun, but everything was under the center, play action, things like that. Um, but just getting adjusted to that phase was different, learning to run the option and read the ends and read the tackles, read the outside backers. Like, you had three different reads based on one option play. Um, and then also learning to take those hits without getting hurt. People don't realize, like, run the option as a quarterback. You actually have phases in practice that you learn how to take the hit when you're pitching the ball off, so that you don't take a full hit to the chest or the head. Whereas you're pitching it, you're rolling back, and it seems like you're getting smoked, but you're actually letting the hit graze up over you. So it was one of those things that, I mean, one of the upperclassmen almost knocked me out on one of my first drills. Like
Yeah.
I didn't do it right, and he like literally smacked me in the face, and it was just like it was a whole ringing concept, and I was like, wow, these guys hit hard,
Mhm.
you know. So it was like they're fast and they hit hard, like, and they're on 100% go. So I'm like, I had to, you know, pick up the pace and learn that stuff. But throughout my freshman year, it was um, I was one of three freshman quarterbacks, and then we had two senior quarterbacks and two junior quarterbacks. So we had at least like 6 or 7 quarterbacks, you know. So it was tough. So midway through the year, I actually transitioned from quarterback to wide receiver because we didn't have many wide receivers. And in practice, as on the when I played on the scout team, I'd play both quarterback and wide receiver. And the coaches was like, noticing that wide receiver, I was catching everything. You know, quarterbacks have the best hands. We handled the football every play.
Yeah.
So I had some of the best hands. I was catching the ball and catching it in traffic and running sharp, crisp routes. So they transitioned me to wide receiver. So the rest of my freshman year and throughout my time at Bryan, I ended up playing wide receiver, but I was also like an emergency quarterback,
Mhm.
just in case. Um, so that was a big transition going into Bryan. I mean, playing wide receiver was a little bit more fun. It was less responsibility, but I mean, it was still it was a big change from high school. Like just the speed, like you said, defenses, reading those defenses was completely different. I mean, I was taught from a young age from Pop Warner how to read a defense because I had quarterback coaches that were actually in college, so I had that college training from that.
Yeah.
But learning that stuff and then being out there is two different things, like the speed and the change. And you see it now, like in the NFL. You see college quarterbacks that come into the NFL and they look like they're trash, but in college they're Heisman Trophy winners, and it was like it's just a different animal every step you go up.
Yeah, because you think a guy's open, but then you realize the defender's probably baiting you, and then you like, oh, that damn, they got
And
me.
and their speed is different.
Yeah.
Some of their speeds are different. And when I went to Bryant, our rival was Bentley, and Tony Seaforth was over at Bentley. So I had 4 years of playing against Tony, and Tony was playing outside linebacker and cornerback.
Mhm.
So I had to line up against him when I played wide receiver. You know what I mean? So it was another one of those things. So in film sessions and the meetings going into the Bentley game, my coach is like, "All right, Shane, what can you tell us about Seaforth?" And I was like, honestly, he said, try not to throw at him as much as you can. I said he's so intelligent. Like he played wide receiver. I said, and he plays defensive back. I said, and he's so intelligent. I said he'll bait our quarterback, and he's faster than he looks.
Mhm.
So like and throughout the year, like you can watch Tony play on film, and you can see what he was doing to other teams, how he's baiting them and things like that. So coach used to tell me like, yo, as much as you can on run plays, put your body on him so that he's worn out and he's tired and things like that. So I mean, that was my job with him. But other than that, with 4 years of going against him, uh, I mean, I think we finally beat Bentley. My senior year, we finally beat Bentley because I redshirted my freshman year. But my senior year, we finally beat Bentley. But I think Tony had just graduated that year because he played his first 4 years. So he
Okay.
told me, he's like, yo, he goes, I'm still undefeated against you. I was like, all right, whatever. But it's it's just one of those things that like there's always rivalries, like especially when you go to school up here in the north, in the northeast and the North Shore, like there's always still rivalries from high school and stuff like that because there was guys on the Merrimack roster that I just realized like I played with them in the Aganis game,
Yeah.
or I played against them throughout the season, and didn't even realize it because you look at the roster, it's like, oh, from Beverly, Massachusetts, went to Beverly High, and it's like, oh shoot, like I played against this guy.
Yeah. Yeah, man. A lot of great times. What are just in your whole football journey, high school, college, semi-pro, coaching, just what's some your biggest outtakes from your football journey you know, progressed in life?
One of the some of the biggest things is like it's just being like, it's all about being flexible and being able to adapt to situations, um, and always know that there's somebody better than you out there, and there's somebody better than you that's trying to help you get better. Uh, I was never the fastest guy at all, by any means. Never the fastest guy, not a speedy guy. But throughout my career, like people always ask me, like, "Yo, how are you so successful? Like, how you open, how you getting all these catches and this and that?" And I'm just like, it's about your football IQ. You know what I mean? Like, you don't have to be the fastest person to get open. You have to run sharp routes and be able to manipulate that guy in front of you. Um, you know what I mean? And you don't always have to have the strongest arm, but you have to anticipate where your receiver is going to be and put it there so that you don't have to force it in there with a strong arm. Um, and it's just things like that. And just like I said, learn to adapt. Now I no longer play because of injuries, but I'm an offensive coordinator, so I'm constantly having to learn to adapt. I watch film on another team and put a game plan together, but then come game, after that first series or that first quarter, they make their adjustments. Now I have to make adjustments on them. So I can't be, stagnant in what I want to do and be stubborn. Like this has got to work. This has got to work. You got to be able to adapt. And it's the same thing with, I mean, I tell young players this, that come into to my semi-pro team, or kids in high school, or things like that I help coach and stuff like that. I tell them, I'm like, yo, like, you may be able to beat a defender in the first quarter, and in the second quarter he's got you on lock. But now in the third quarter, now who's gonna win? Because now you both see what each other's got. Now who's gonna make those adjustments to win the battle, to win the one on one? So it's a chess game pretty much. Like football is a chess game. You know what I mean? So you playing your next move 4 moves ahead.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. Shay, man, hey, we running out of time here, man. Really, really, really appreciate this. This was a good conversation. If anybody want to get in touch with you, follow you, please plug in your social media.
Oh, for sure. So I'm on Facebook. It's at Shane Cheltenham is my Facebook. You can find me easily. Um, my other social media, Instagram is BIG_SUGE10. Um, so those are the two social medias that I use the most, two social media platforms I use the most for that. But yeah, get in touch with me. I'm always up for conversations, reminiscing of the good old days, and even up to now, you know what I mean, and giving anything I can give back to anybody, or any coaches, any players and things like that. Any knowledge that I have to go forth, because I mean it's big in our city. We have so much talent in Lynn, you know what I mean? So it was a shame that back in the day, not enough players got the opportunity to go to school and showcase their talents and get themselves out of the city. Because I mean, without football, for me, I don't know where I would be. Football's helped me travel the world. I went over to Europe to play, in Germany to play football. You know what I mean? So it's taken me across the world. I've got friends all over the country. I got friends in different countries now from football, but it's also open a lot of doors. You know what I mean? So the youth that are coming up now, they need to know that it's not D1 or bust. You know what I mean? There's one double A, there's Division 2, there's Division 3. There's a lot of talent that comes out of all of those divisions that are in the NFL. And also the NFL isn't the end game. You know what I mean? There's a lot of professional leagues that you can play in. There's a lot of other things that you can do to keep playing football until you're ready to hang them up. But I mean, that's the main thing. That's what I try to instill now. Like, I went from pupil to teacher now, so it's time to give back.
Yeah, yeah, definitely, man. All right. Thank you for this. This was a great conversation. You guys been watching Athletes Corner. Have a great day.
Take it easy, guys.